Hey, welcome to the Lion's Den, home of hungry coaches and closers. I am Kyle Kraft, your fearless leader, and I am here to help you guys cut your call times in half. Today, I wanted to talk about how I cut my call times in half simply by using something called the Four Corners Framework. Now, if you are a coach, you're a consultant, you're a service provider, or a sales rep, and you are selling a high-ticket coaching offer somewhere between $3,000 and $50,000 on either a one or two call close, then this training is specifically for you. You see, I spent 8 years selling high ticket coaching. And for the first probably 3 years, my calls went long. I mean, it was a good day if I got them done in about an hour, but I remember having calls over an hour and just how draining it was. How likelihood of them buying went drastically down. And it just made me feel like I never knew what I was specifically looking for at every stage of the call. And so it caused me to have to explore a lot of different areas with my prospects. I would often explore their pain points around their health, their health and fitness, their relationships, their financial situation, the impact that was having on them. And I would sort of create this massive spider web of pain points and would have to sort of use my discernment to figure out, okay, I think these one, two, or three are like the main ones. And it wasn't until I took a ton of time. I've been reviewing one of my calls or listening to a sales training every day since I started sales because, well, maybe I'm not the smartest tool in the shed, but I will work harder than anybody. So in doing that, I had listened to, I think, a total of like 40 or 50 calls and just realized a couple of different patterns. And so I want to share those patterns with you because they were what I originally put on the back of a just yellow pad piece of paper and was able to kind of map this out. And when I realized how simple sales calls could be, it really opened the door for me to have much faster conversations, gave me complete clarity as to what I needed to be looking for at every stage, and allowed for me then to take all that information and position their offer. So it felt like the offer I was making them wasn't kind of like a shotgun approach, but it was like a sniper rifle, the thing that they actually needed specifically to solve their problem and fulfill their own emotional needs, which, by the way, is all sales really is. So if you are looking to cut your call times in half, I hope some of this can help you. So first, I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen. First thing you want to understand, guys, is sales calls. When I say four corners, think about it like this. The problems your prospects have are what drives the sales process, okay? And so I want to keep that theme throughout today because if you understand how this works and how it relates to each stage, it's going to make it fairly simple, all right? So right here we have the four corners, okay? And I'm just going to list them out for you. First, you have your problem, then you have a finish line, then you have the promised land, then you have the future impact. Then we go ahead, make an offer, and then we handle their execution barriers, also known as objections. So we're going to leave this one kind of off the table today. Tomorrow, I'm going to be posting up. I just shot a new training on objection handling and how to handle the most common smokescreen objection, to think about it. So if you want that, look out for that tomorrow. I'll be dropping that here in the group. But for today, we want to talk about how are we going to cut our times in half simply by understanding these four corners. So when a sales call starts, one of the big mistakes I think a lot of people make is they try to do like old style rapport. Old style rapport is talking about the weather. Oh, you're in California. I've been to California too. How cool is that? Hey, are you drinking, you got your coffee today? What kind of coffee are you drinking? Oh, I drink bulletproof coffee too. Right. And it's like it's not very authentic. And what it really tells the prospects, from what I can tell, is A, that you're playing a game. You're not being authentic with them. And B, they know it's now a sales call, right? Because no one else talks like that. Nobody. I mean, even if you're standing in line at the grocery store and you say hi to somebody, you're not going to be like, oh, did you visit the beach last year? Like you just don't kind of have those conversations. So get rid of that, because I've also stepped on landmines, right? Like at one point I asked someone how just they were doing today. And it's like this tumultuous overspill of all the things that went wrong in their morning and how tired they are and their kids need braces and like all these different things. And it's like before you know it, 18 minutes goes by and you're not even into your sales call yet. So the fastest way that I found to start a sales call is just confirming the general area that you're there to talk about, right? You're here to talk about X, Y, and Z. Is that right? Yes. Okay, cool. Like that's it. That's it. I mean, typically I'll say, hey, how you doing? This is just Kyle, over here at Kraft Consulting. And then it's like, we're here to discuss this, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. We're off and running. That's it. That's all you need. Okay. So take that to the bank. And when you're doing that, what's really happening for them is you're kind of pulling them into sort of that version of themselves that remembers the problem. Okay. So that's the first piece. Now, once you've clarified why you're there, the next goal is to establish what the real problem is. Okay. Now, I've got a full training on how a sales structure needs to work for you to effectively align with how people make buying decisions, also known as change behavior. If you haven't seen that, just shoot me a message and I can send it over to you because it's absolutely critical that you do not start any of your sales talk, pitch, benefits, features, anything about your product offerings. If you start with a product-driven sales process, it creates a tremendous amount of guardedness and defensiveness in people. It's a scientific term known as reactance. So because if you're putting on them or making an assumption that they have a problem, they don't know you, right? And their guards are going to come up and it's going to make the call really hard and at best not truthful, right? You're not going to be getting the real answers that you need to have this person realize they do need help, they need it now, and they need to pull out their credit card and make something happen. So once you've clarified why they're there, the next stop on corner one is going to be the problem. Now, if you get this right, it makes everything else real, okay? So it's really important. So when you establish the problem, you want to have sort of an understanding as to your offer. Again, if you haven't seen my training on what goes into creating the connection between marketing and sales, meaning like how do you actually take an offer, a solution of some kind that you want to sell, and then reverse engineer how to make the marketing fit so that when people show up on sales calls, they're already looking for what you offer. That's like a really important step. Now, that being said, offers typically have, one, two, usually three different sort of elements that go into it that allow for you to have it be like a complete solution. And each one of those elements is like a particular solve for part of the problem that your prospects have. Typically in marketing, what you're going to do is you're going to look at each one of those problems that you solve, like the big three main problems your offer solves. And you're going to have different sort of perspectives on that, right? What they call marketing angles. So for example, if let's say I'm a fitness coach and my offer is a fitness program, that's modifiable and you can do it anywhere. Let's say it also includes nutrition and then maybe some like mindset and lifestyle habits trainings, okay? If you wanted to, let's say, attract people who need help with nutrition, right, you might put out a marketing angle around, hey, do you struggle to find foods that your family likes that also help you hit your weight loss goals, right? Like that's a marketing hook. And anyone that looks at that, clicks on that, advances into your sales funnel, right, intimately that they're coming in for nutritional help, okay? And so you have to have an understanding of these things because when someone's coming in, you don't want to assume why they're actually there, right? And so if they're showing up, you say, okay, so we're here to possibly discuss, let's say, weight loss, for example, and they say yes. All right, now we've confirmed. Now we want to move forward and establish the real problem. You want to make sure that you have the right angle, okay? And if they're not clear or if they've forgotten what it is you do, you want to be able to communicate to them clearly, right? Hey, typically when people come to us, they fall into one of three camps, right? Sometimes they want to lose weight, other times they want to put on muscle, or sometimes they want to develop athletically. I guess which one of those might you be looking for today, right? Or which one of those might resonate with you today? And so that is how, right, they can sort of self-select. Now, it doesn't matter what they say. Your offer probably fulfills all of them, but it matters in terms of how they perceive the problem and where they're showing up. So we want to get that right. Now, let's say they say, "Oh yeah, I know I've been working out, but I feel like my nutrition really needs some help." Okay, got it. So now we know the problem, right? We know the problem, and if we know the problem, okay, we need to establish a couple of different things. All right. The first thing is, what is the specific tangible they need to actually solve the problem? Okay. But you can't get there until you know what the problem is. So when you get that problem, the next step as we move to the finish line is going to be around looking at, okay, so I guess what are you doing now for your nutrition, right? Like how are you actually attacking the nutrition bit since you started working out? And you're going to start to get their story, right? Now, I'm going to take a quick sidestep here. The story people tell themselves ultimately determines their destiny in life. Okay. It's the most powerful narrative because it's running 24/7 subconsciously in their brain about who they are and what things mean to them. And so, what we want to do is once we've established the problem, is we want to contrast that problem against each one of these different corners. Okay. And so for a finish line, the first thing we want to contrast against in the finish line being exactly this the specific tangible they need to actually solve their problem. We want to contrast the problem against that. So we have to know what the story is. So if we step back into it, okay, so right now it sounds like you're trying to eat, well, but you're always traveling, you got kids, and so you find yourself eating food off their plate, after they finish dinner, you're tired after cooking and cleaning and running all the house, all day and working all day. And so you usually grab something quick and easy, like from McDonald's on the way home. And although you're trying to make good choices from that, ultimately, eating processed food is really kind of the culprit. Did I get that right? Yes. Okay. So it's like, what is it that you need, right? And they're going to tell you right now, they're going to say, I need someone to tell me exactly what to eat. I need to know what that's going to be. Boom. Now we know the finish line, right? And what's so important about that is if you have that specific thing, right? What do you think you're going to pull into the first part when you explain your offer, right? We're going to pull that in. Remember how you said you were struggling with nutrition, right? So what most people do is they drive around in their car after work looking for something cheap and easy because they're so tired and they still have kids to take care of before they get to bed, wake up early and do it all over again, right? And so what we do is we make eating healthy fast and easy so that even when you're tired and life is chaotic, you can still make choices that align with your goals, help you burn fat, and get the weight off for life. So that is a really simple thing, guys, that again, when you have that, you don't need to explore a bazillion different things. You can just understand, okay, I know the finish line. I'm pulling that into my offer because that's a specific thing. They're here and what they need. Okay, cool. Now, from there, right? Like we also want to understand then, like if you did have that, okay, like what's the end goal that you want from that? Like if you could eat foods that were fast, easy, and cheap, and they helped you get the weight off and kept you healthy, like what do you see 3, 6, 12 months down the road? Like what's actually going to be different than it is today, right? God forbid you wake up a year from now, you're in the exact same shape or worse. Like what's the alternative to that? What do you really want? Right. And now we're going to start to get the promised land. And the promised land is like that dreamy, exciting, that hopeful version of the life they know that awaits them if they can only acquire the thing at the finish line. Right. And so we want to sort of have them paint this picture for us. And as we reflect back to them, we want to really understand. I just realized I'm not on this one. All right, perfect. We want to understand, right? Like what is going to be so gosh darn amazing that they get out of bed, do the happy dance, and pinch themselves because they just can't believe how awesome life is. That's the picture we want. Okay. So when we understand now what the problem is, we understand what the finish line is, and what the promised land is, notice the direction of sort of the emotional journey. Okay. And these arrows that I have here are indicative of the emotional journey. Okay. Because a sales call really is a roller coaster for people. We're taking them up, we're taking them down, we're taking them left and right. And so as they start with the problem, right? It's kind of like neutral because that's just their day to day. That's how they live and that's how they breathe today. Okay. When they realize specifically what they need, what's so cool about that is as soon as someone has vision, hope follows. So because it now seems real to them, which is now attainable. Okay. And what we're doing is we're taking that and we want to stretch it as far as we can in terms of the positive attributions that they associate with that finish line. That's a fancy way of saying, my 10-cent version of that is they are going to be excited because they know that they can get what they want. And in that excitement, what is the new story they can tell themselves? All right. And when they tell themselves that new story, and because it feels real, because they know the thing they need, that's like the highest level of emotion that they can have, right? In a positive regard on the call. Once we get that, okay, now all we have to do is establish consequence, establish cost of inaction, establish what is the loss or the future loss by not solving this. All right. That's what I call the future impact. Impact is always emotional. And in the future, notice this giant downward arrow, right? Emotionally, we take them from the highest point that we can on a sales call and we bring them all the way down. It's like we rip the rug out from under their feet. Okay. So you got to make sure that you language this tactfully, is that a word? Tactfully, so that they feel respected, they feel cared about. And you're doing this because you need them to have clarity around all different angles of this thing, right? If someone just buys on enthusiasm, when they get hit in the face with how hard the work is going to be, they're going to charge back, they're going to refund, they're not going to continue and stay committed. So we have to make sure that we get them crystal clear on their true motivations in terms of, what's the problem, what's the finish line, what's the promised land, okay? And then what's the future impact? Now, the future impact, really it's kind of the opposite of that promised land question. When you take a look down the road 3, 6, 12 months, God forbid you don't solve this and you wake up, what does it actually look like if you haven't changed anything from this day forward? And what we need is the opposite story of that promised land, right? We need to know what it is doing to them, why it would be so bad, and what that would mean for them, for their families, for their futures. Okay. And so when you get the future impact, it's like, well, I'd probably have even more weight on my body. If we're using the fitness offer, I'd probably have even more weight on my body. My relationship with my spouse would continue to be strained, and God forbid it even disintegrates further. And I'd probably feel guilty and terrible about not being the role model my kids need. Okay, got it. And now we have this giant sort of space between the promised land and the future impact. Now, this, right, is what I'm calling the new gap. The new gap, right? If you remember back in the day, the old ways of selling, it's like you have your desired state on the left, you have your, you have your current state, right, or your current place in life for your avatar, your prospect on the left, and then you have your desired state, the outcome they want, the result they most desire on the right. And that used to be the gap, right, from here to here. I like to do it this way because it shows you how the emotion actually comes up and down on a sales call. And the more vivid and illustrative and language that uses like picture language, vision language in both of these, the more real it becomes in their mind as their story. So you want to make sure that you are using words that elicit emotion by making it a picture in their mind. Okay. And when you have that, that's now the biggest gap possible. And why is that so important? Well, if you're selling a high ticket program, okay, not only do they need clarity on their own motivations and all these different pieces, but when you go to the next phase of making your offer with a high ticket price, whether it's 3, 10, 20, $50,000, you're contrasting it against that emotional gap. Okay. That's what makes it so much easier for you to go ahead and have them see the value, because the pain between where they are and where they truly want to be and what's at stake is as large as it can possibly be. Now, that, of course, pending you have a good connection with them, you've been able to ask questions in a respectful way, you're really listening so that they feel heard, understood, appreciated, and valued. Those are sort of permission to play things, right? You have the right script with language. You're not, just running a robotic like fax machine style script. You actually care, you're listening, it's a real conversation. But when you get that point and then you make your offer and contrast it against that gap, that's how people all of a sudden feel like, wow, this is exactly what I need and it's well worth the price. Okay. So, but again, it has to be real. Now, from there, of course, you make your offer, and there's always going to be, some objections that we cannot pre-handle. Sure, you can ask in your, setting process if, they're the sole decision maker on the direction of their health and fitness, or if they have a partner involved in that. And if they have a partner involved with that, you can get them on the call, right? Or if they don't and they make their own decisions, great. but there's some objections you can't handle, right? Like if they just get shocked at the price because they've never ever in their life bought high ticket before, you can't really control that. And you're going to have to be able to handle that right then and there. And you have to have the right process, frameworks, wording, tonality, all that good stuff. So, again, posting up tomorrow if you want that in the group, talking about one of the most popular smoke screens to think about it. But, guys, that's the four corners, right? You establish the problem, you establish the specific tangible that they need, you get them into that promised land in their mind using picture words and drawing out the emotion of what's possible for them, what becomes truly possible. Then we take it all away with future impact, right? What happens if you don't actually solve this here right now? And from there, you make your offer, you handle objections, you get a new client in the door. If you guys want this recording, or if you want to see the longer training I did that actually includes all of my frameworks here, you can go ahead and just shoot me a message and I'll send it over to you. It's completely free. I just care about you guys being able to sell your unique skills and services and not have to struggle to do that, because there are people out there that truly need it. And I don't want to see you guys not be able to take care of yourselves, your families, your own futures. And so if you need any help with that, again, reach out to me. I have tons of trainings in my archive. And furthermore, if you guys would rather just hop on a quick 10-minute call, I do offer a free sales structure audit. As I mentioned in the beginning, a sales structure that is put together incorrectly, that does not align with human change behavior, is ultimately going to have that person give you untruthful answers, and you're not going to be able to sell them at least effectively or efficiently, because you're going to have so much resistance coming from them that like every question is going to be a battle, and they're going to be playing games with you. So if you want to avoid all that, you can just reach out to me. We can take a look at your sales structure, and I'd be happy to give you any of my paid training scripts, resources, just to get you pointed in the right direction if that serves you. Okay. Thanks again for stopping by, guys. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Let me know if you have any questions. If this was valuable to you, smash the like button and tag a friend below if they need to see it too. Cheers.